To speak or not to speak? Well, believe it or not, some people are afraid to speak up and speak out. Professor Trevor Monroe, Principal Director of the National Integrity Action, wrote about this struggle and the impact it has on our society in a recent article. So we invited him to share with us on the topic. Good morning, Prof.
Morning, Professor. How are you, sir?
Welcome.
Good morning, Daniel. Good morning, Neville. Good to see you both.
Good to see you, sir. Were we always like this, not wanting to speak out? Or is this something in recent time, this informal, affidavit type of thing? Were we always like this?
I think it comes and goes, Neville and Delio. At points in our history, we are too afraid to speak out. At other points, we're not afraid of nothing. I'll give you an example. Marcus Garvey, for example, was soldiering a voice in the wilderness from about 1920s right up to the late 30s. Couldn't see the kind of results he wanted to see, got quite despondent when he left Jamaica. But right after he left in the late 30s, going into the early 40s, he actually passed away in 1940, all of Jamaica rose up, not only spoke out, but rose up and said, look, we want our rights, we want to be able to form trade unions, and ultimately to get the vote so that we can choose and remove who we want to lead us. So that was a long period of quietude, and then people rose up. So you have deep valleys of passivity, and then peaks of assertiveness, which then brings results. But during the passivity, people are thinking, people are wondering, people are afraid to speak out, and for good reason. There are so many cases where if you speak out, you get victimized, excuse me, or you get pushed back. In other cases, you don't see it bring no results. Nothing now go happen, so why talk out? But that's how it is in our history and in the history of most countries. And it's important for us in Black History Month in particular. And I wrote the article on Bob Marley's actual birthday, February 6th, to recall that and to encourage one another to speak out. Otherwise, our rights will be taken away from us. And if we don't speak out, then things that are bad are going to get worse.
Prof, it's I don't know. It's such a contrasting history because we have the history of a people that, will fight for our rights, will speak up for our rights, and then we have the history of a people who believe that informa fided. That's the phrasing. How do we overcome that? It's been with us for so long.
Yes, and in fact, one of the things I noted in the article is that there are small and positive signs that things may be changing. For example, Crime Stop. For most of the last year, we were averaging about 60 calls to 311 every month. In January, it jumped to 80. Wow. And we are beginning to see some of the results in terms of the weapons of war used to murder people and to kill being taken in by the police, and we congratulate them for the successes. Mm-hmm. But our people, when they begin to see results from speaking out, I think you get that reduction in the feeling that it don't make no sense. Another good example, actually, is the one where in Upper St. Andrew, homeowners are now speaking out as the violations of the building codes and the covenants in their area begin to impact people. So in fact, in another few weeks, there's going to be a landmark court hearing of the Court of Appeal where the Supreme Court ordered that one of these buildings erected in breach of the law should be demolished. I think it's $100 million for that building because it was illegal, mm-hmm. It should not have been constructed, it violates the rights of the homeowners, and the only reason that's going as far as it is that folks got together. There's a Golden Triangle Association, there is a community advocacy group, and they said, look, we have to make sure that our rights as homeowners, we have saved for so long, we have our homes now, we don't want a high-rise building on top of us in breach of law. And that's another example where speaking out, standing up, has brought results. And people are looking and saying, well, look, maybe it makes sense for me to say something and not to keep quiet. In fact, right now, Daly and Neville, in fact, yesterday was it? There's a law which actually protects us against victimization at the workplace. It's called the Protected Disclosures Act, otherwise called the Whistleblowers Act, which really, if you see wrong in your place of work and you report it, this law provides you protection from being victimized or discriminated against.
Yeah.
But it's Jamaica's best kept secret. Now
Yeah.
it's being reviewed, and hopefully more people will be told about it. More people will feel less fear to speak out and to talk up for what is right.
Yeah, there's stigma also, Professor. I'm asking a question here because both Delia and I used informer. Now they're kind of saying whistleblower. So there's stigma. Well, somebody said, well, I'm not an informer, you know, so I'm not telling you nothing. That word has a lot to do with why people keep quiet too, don't it?
Yeah, it does. And we need to reconstruct that dialogue and to say, look, you know, the opposite of informer for dead is man to stand up. That's what Bob was saying, and that's what more people are doing now. And, you know, it has happened very, very strongly in the past, not just in the 1930s, the 1960s and 70s. You know, students were speaking out and standing up and seeing results. So women today would not have the right to maternity leave. We're among the first in the world. I think we're still ahead of the United States in terms of women having the legal protection for 2 months with pay and 3 months for maternity leave. That wouldn't have happened unless we stood up. Those lessons aren't sufficiently taught and learned. And I think once we're seeing that the more you talk is the less guns you're going to have to turn on you, is the more we'll understand that informer will live.
Yeah.
And informer will make us live. And that's a hopeful sign that we need to give much encouragement to. And by the way, we can do it in a manner that reduces the risk to ourselves.
Right.
The 311 is completely anonymous. You don't need to give your name. The reports to the Auditor General, another hopeful sign. And last year, she reported what she called a surge of whistleblower reports. It multiplied 5 or 6 times from what it was in 2020, in 2021. And similarly, the reports to the Integrity Commission actually increased a bit. So we're not seeing a surge of everybody speaking out and talking out and standing up, but we're seeing hopeful signs that we may be climbing out of the valley of passivity, of keeping quiet, and again, once more climbing to one of the peaks of our assertiveness and standing up to defend what is right.
Good to see you, sir. Thanks for speaking with us this morning. God bless.
And thanks, Neville. Thanks, Delia. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
All the best.
Professor Trevor Monroe, Principal Director of the National Integrity Action. Still ahead, National Foster Care Week, but the second edition of News in 5 is next. Stay with us, please.